Hello YouTube, and we've got another Blitz League here. We took a little more feedback. Things that you'll notice is we've slowed it down just a little bit here. It's still under 30 minutes. The other thing you'll notice also is we have a bit of this weird angled camera, and that's because our camera and audio is having a little bit of an issue, and so we're on our default backup camera, the webcam. If you do enjoy this, please consider like and subscribing here on YouTube. It does support the channel and the videos. Lastly, we did record full commentary. That should be somewhere over here. So if you don't want any spoilers, go ahead and click that. It's about an hour and a half, the normal length for our leagues typically. Full commentary there, but if you're into this Blitz League, continue on. Lukka Red in Modern. All right, so we have Lukka Coppercoat Outcast here. We're going to take a look briefly at the list. We've slowed actually down the speed, so hopefully this will be a little bit easier to commentate over. But basically the idea here is we're going to be trying to do Lukka Coppercoat Outcast with Planebound Accomplice here, trying to use that combination there to spin out with one of our 3 drops a Emrakul, the Aeons. So Lukka is exiling and basically spins through the deck, finding something with converted mana cost larger, and because of all our creatures being 3 drops, spins right into Emrakul. Otherwise, the deck is essentially some sort of version of a Pyro Prison that you might be familiar with on the channel. And so with that, we'll see how it works out. One thing to note is that I think a Sarkhan could be useful here. We have the Seasoned Pyromancers, and we'll hopefully not run into Emrakul issues, and we'll just see how it plays out. We're obviously doing a little bit of a recap. Sleepless Glass Guy, by the way, is a fan. Thank you for the match. I appreciate it. It was good to chat with you just briefly there. So, what's this match going to be like? Well, we're going to try to go ahead and play this Magus or maybe Planebound, set ourselves up with Lukka. We do see that our opponent has an Eldrazi Temple and happened to get another Magus. We're good here. We're going to go ahead and play Magus. They are able to remove it. We're hoping that they don't have another Eldrazi Temple and get like a Thought Knot, but it doesn't look like that. They played a Cavern of Souls. Chalice on 1 doesn't really impact us too much, so we'll just replay a Magus once we top deck our land. At this point, we're kind of in full swing, what we think, and we're going to probably try to find those winning pieces that we need in this matchup. Winning pieces being Planebound, Lukka, and so on and so forth. Opponent does find a Karn, and they end up going and getting a Walking Ballista, I believe. And that's pretty good for them because it's just land drop, kill the Magus here with a Walking Ballista on 2. We top deck in a Braid. I'd prefer to have found a land, then I could get the Chandra going. We set up Planebound just on the off chance that we get Lukka here. Walking Ballista down, it's going to be an easy block and kill. We top deck another Magus of the Moon, so we're keeping them off of this kind of colorless, so we're not going to run into hopefully Reality, Smasher, or Thought Knots here. We do a little bit of trading here, Walking Ballista, Magus, blocking, we get to replay Magus. Easy stuff here so far. They are getting enough mana to probably do something pretty painful here, and so we'll see if that becomes the problem. They go with Karn here. They end up getting Wormcoil. I was a bit concerned they might find another Walking Ballista, so we're lucky there. We're floating 4 mana. We've got a Chalice now in 2, and our Braids are no good. We end up topping them in a Braid, so let's go ahead and just Seasoned Pyromancers, spin these away. We don't get the Scry off the Void. We're going to swing in. We're looking okay here, but nothing too crazy. So we have a Wormcoil. I'm debating whether to attack with things and try to like bring in the Chandra. We know that the Chalice on 2 is going to stop all our Braids. Probably at this point, I'd probably consider maybe Chandra uptick, but we go ahead and attack. They end up blocking Seasoned Pyromancer, luckily for us, and that makes it enough that the Planebound activation allows us to get the Chandra into play. Now this is a bit of a sneak kind of attack there, and we thought it would pay off, but unfortunately our opponent just blows everything away. They've got 6 damage that they're pummeling into us over the next few turns. Playing a Chalice on 3, and at that point we have a Chalice on 1, 2, and it's 3 sitting under the camera area there. But realistically, we're just don't have much of a shot here. We can chump, so do that, or we just chump 1. We end up finding a Seasoned Pyromancer. This gets played, so it gets into our yard. The idea is I can now chump. I can then play Seasoned Pyromancer right after. The token's back. We can chump some more. We're trying to find Lukka, maybe spin into something. just going for whatever our outs are. We decide it's not worth it because I have to block twice, and we move on to game number 2 here. Noting that Chalice isn't very good, we go ahead and decide, hey, that's what we want. Instead of doing 4 relics, I do just 3. We have the Torp Orb as well, and we're just doing that just as a kind of draw engine, but also the Torp Orb stops a few of the Thought-Knot Seers. We don't really have anything else for this matchup, so we'll just go with those couple things, go into game number 2 here. Game number 2, we've got a Plane Bound, we have an Abrade, we can do either Abrade or Rabble Master. Pretty quick clock, opponent's got all their cards. We're just going to see, can a fast Rabble Master, maybe a removal of an Abrade be good? Power Plant's excellent to see here. It means it's unlikely to see a Thought-Knot. They get rid of a Simian Spirit Guide. Excuse me. They go get rid of a Simian Spirit Guide. Matter Reshaper is then played. And then we go ahead and just Abrade this. They top deck a Chalice. They put it on 0. We swing with the Rabble Master and the Goblins. And from there, it looks like our opponent doesn't have much else. Pretty quick game 2. Not much to say. Slam the Rabble Master. Opponent didn't keep enough lands, probably. So on and so forth. We're on the draw here. We've got an interesting hand here. We have a gemstone. We can probably Abrade something like an expedition map. We can Abrade a Chalice if we wanted to Abrade a creature. So we decide gemstone. Let's go ahead and ditch the Chandra here. They get an expedition map. We get to Abrade it, and so everything's looking pretty good here so far. Seasoned Pyromancer and Plane Bound. Maybe we can try to dig for that Lukka, and we go ahead and try to do that. Seasoned Pyromancer getting rid of one thing or two. We have the Void here. We're ditching a Ritual effect. We're going to use the Relic. We're going to crack the Relic. Just trying to find something here. We end up finding Magus, which shuts off Temple. Unlikely that they'll have a Thought-Knot Seer here, just because they didn't before. Opponent does a Warping Whale, and I'm guessing, personally, they're probably going to have a Reality Smasher since they didn't have the Thought-Knot the previous turn. And they sit here, exile a Simian Spirit Guide, get the Thought-Knot, and actually get our Plane Bound taken away. Lucky for us, though, we top deck a Plane Bound. So we're at this kind of stalemate here. I can't really attack into a Thought-Knot Seer. I'm just going to lose something. They really shouldn't attack me either, because then I'll just swing out at them. And they're not doing anything, so I'm guessing they're sitting here with a Reality Smasher in hand or something much bigger. But needless to say, nothing's played. We bounce back and forth a little bit. They get another Simian Spirit Guide, obviously missing their land drops, and pick themselves up a Karn. Now, Karn, I'm thinking, all right, it's going to do the Walking Ballista thing again, but in fact, it doesn't. It goes and finds just an Ensnaring Bridge, which is kind of worrisome for us. We need to somehow get that Karn taken care of, so we go ahead and go all in. We don't care about the Magus so much here. My opponent's clearly missed lands for a while and didn't have really a 4-drop, plus they have Eldrazi Scion here. They do some Dismembers, they do some other things here where they sacrifice the tokens and so on and so forth. It doesn't really result in too much here for us. We don't have the best board here, but we do have a couple things that can get under a bridge. My opponent's got 2 cards in hand, and that's very important here. We're thinking that we can attack with everything and go for it, killing the Karn. Now, unfortunately, we top deck Emrakul, so our whole plan of getting Lukka out and Emrakul is not very good, especially with the bridge here. And we've got this kind of nuanced bridge that is going to prevent us from doing what we need to. We do get the tokens, though, from the Seasoned Pyromancer. This will hopefully help us clear the Karn. By clearing the Karn, we at least have some chance here. Find the Abrade, find Lukka, find a way to get rid of the Emrakul. This is our game plan going forward here. Opponent attacks. Not too worried about that attack here. We're just going to attack right back. 3 damage to them, 4 damage to us, back and forth. We're sitting at 16 and 10 life, respectively. Not too worried. We got the Simian Spirit Guide that can chump block. My opponent's not doing too much here, luckily for us. Alright, so my opponent at this point does something here. They play an All Is Dust. It does shrink them down, and our Lukka's here, but not. So at this point, we're trying to figure out, hey, we've got Lukka, we've got another ability here. We go up here, we're trying to find a Seasoned Pyromancer. When things are exiled with Lukka, you can continue to play them as long as you maintain Lukka. My opponent just burned an All Is Dust, so Lukka's probably relatively safe here. Unfortunately, they've got a Chalice on 3 here. So, we could find an Abrade, although we've already got 2 of them gone. We have 1 more in the deck. We continue to do the stuff with Lukka here. testing out how the exile and working with Lukka is. At this point, we're looking at what the emblem or the ult is. We're looking at what's going on with what's in the graveyard, what's in the exile. And so we've got it up to 8. They're increasing their blast zone. We actually have Seasoned Pyromancer, which we can bring back here and then use Lukka downtick to hit a 3-drop to hopefully hit a Seasoned Pyromancer to get rid of our Emrakul to maybe get our Emrakul back. Opponent Spatial Contortions, and this is the issue here. You can exile or attempt to exile your creature, and they can just simply remove it. We get another shot at this, though. We end up spinning into Seasoned Pyromancer, though. We land on a Relic and a Desperate Ritual here. We can just cycle the Relic. We're going to play a Torp Orb down. We're now looking for our Abrade, noting that we actually have 3 Abrades that are gone. So at this point, we're thinking, let's get Lukka to the max. They kill the Lukka. We end up top decking a Lukka. But basically, we're trying to determine, can we somehow spin into Emrakul and then use Lukka's -7 ability? We determined that we have enough time to do that, so we go ahead and go for it. Reality Smasher for our opponent. We have the Lukka. We're just going to be upticking here with the Lukka, trying to get it to 7 so that we can use it and shoot our opponent for 17 damage. Not much else to do here, but hope that my opponent finds no answers for our Lukka. Fingers are crossed here. Opponent's definitely getting plenty of mana, and I'm sure they have plenty of All Is Dusts. Up we go, and my opponent does get and completes an All Is Dust tackle here. Seasoned Pyromancer gets to be played. I notice I have 2 Chandras, and I'm at this point believing that I don't have any extra hits. I end up top decking a Chandra because I forgot it wasn't a 3-2 split, it was a 3-3 split. So we have a Chandra. We need to work this up so that I can cast things, kill them. Not to mention the Chandra can also just kill them by doing the uptick damage. It was pretty nice top deck. I think you can kind of see where this one's going. We're going to Emblem here, shoot our opponent a whole bunch, and end the game here with plenty of damage. 5, 10, 15, 20, we could do 25. So we did get Lukka. We played around a bridge. And we played around a Chalice on 3. Could be something here. Would have been nice to have an extra Abrade there in case I needed to get around the bridge, and I figure that'll be probably the most frustrating piece to run into. Alright, we've found ourselves against a Lurrus deck. We're expecting many of these. We get Inquisitioned immediately. I'm thinking Chalice on 1 and Chalice on 2 could be very, very potent. The deck, after all, is just Chalice on 1 and Chalice on 2. Or, sorry, converted mana cost 1 and 2. We decide to lead with a Chalice on 1 here, hoping that it will protect Magus from Fatal Pushes and Lightning Bolts. The opponent plays a Dark Confident. We get to Ritual out a Magus of the Moon, probably keep them off of green, and we'll go from there. We do recognize there is a potential for a blowout here. The potential is Kolaghan's Command, which ends up actually being what happens. We miss our land drop here, and now we have an option of putting Chalice on 0 or 1. If we put it on 1, they play Lurrus and get the Mishra's Bauble combo going. If we put it on 0, we stop that, and then we have the ability to go ahead and Abrade Dark Confidant. We choose the Abrade Dark Confidant and Chalice on 0 to stop the engine. That being said, abrading and then having a Lurrus, they can just play Lurrus and get Dark Confidant. Our opponent has a Croxa that they play. Makes us discard. We decide to discard Chandra. They get an Inquisition. We've stopped the combo, but at the same time, we're just getting run over by Croxa. We're getting run over by Lurrus coming down soon. We're getting just stripped of everything that we're doing. So let's move to game number 2, we decide. We have Angers, we have Relics. We're trying to decide if Chalice is very good here because they have a lot of removal. Kolaghan's Commands, Abrupt Decays, Assassin's Trophies. And so unless we get the Chalice on 1 or 2 immediately, we're not going to be in great shape. The other thing we're kind of determining here is, well, we could just Lukka combo them, and Emrakul swinging once will just board wipe them because they won't have too many permanents. We get a turn 1 Magus. This looks good for our opening hand. Our opponent has a Verdant Catacombs, a Seal of Fire, and blows up our Magus. We lean really hard into this Magus, hoping that it'll shut down my opponent from having multiple colors here. They end up getting a Tarmogoyf here. It's a 5/6, beats us down. Another Tarmogoyf. We can play a Seasoned Pyromancer for a few chump blockers here. But other than that, we're going to pretty much get run over by a bunch of Tarmogoyfs here. Not a whole lot we can do. We do block with Seasoned Pyromancer on the idea that we could potentially get to flash that back. We'll be playing Rabblemaster, swinging with our one Goblin because it creates the Goblin, but it's also a blocker. My opponent just Lightning Bolts us here. We have 14 damage coming across. We have one blocker. They end up Croxing us, removing our one blocker that we could be playing, taking 7, going to 8. We have one more blocker here. We can theoretically block one more turn. Opponent Abrupt Decays, and Lurrus takes us down. We lean super heavy on the Magus of the Moon on game number 2 there, and it punishes us drastically. Not something we normally would like to do, but hey, it was Jund. Why not give it a shot? They happen to have the seal away. Lurrus deck number 2. We have a 1-lander here. Let's see if we've figured out anything. It's the double chalice as well. Looks almost identical to what we just literally did. We decide to mulligan this one. Okay. So we end up getting a chalice. We can play the chalice on 1. We decide that's what we're going to still try to do. Maybe we can stop Thoughtseizes, Bolts, Sealways, all of that. Our opponent Lava Spikes us. Also plays a Mistress Bauble. At this point, this is probably the first time that I've run into the Burn Lurrus match. So we have this. Great. This will be a new thing for us. We have a Planebound Accomplice and we have a Seasoned Pyromancer here. We decide to play the Planebound on the off chance that I get a Lukka off the top and can Emrakul. If we can Lukka and Emrakul, we should be completely fine. Opponent attacks, we decide not to block. They end up skewering our Planebound. We play a Seasoned Pyromancer just to cycle through some cards here. So at this point, we're sitting at 11. We're trying to determine, hey, do we kill this? Do we play a Rabblemaster? We need this off so that we can start like generating our value through our Rabblmasters and Desperate Rituals. We go for the kill here instead of swinging in. We're talking a little bit about our sideboard here with Dragon Claws, and our opponent decides to Boros Charm and make this indestructible, I believe. So we don't kill. We took 2 damage. They took 2 damage, but they keep their Eidolon around. I can't really Ritual out and Rabblemaster here. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Seasoned Pyromancer in here. We're going to cycle our Seasoned Pyromancer, the 2 cards. We're still looking for that Lukka, just trying to get over the top of our opponent. Boros Charms us, second Eidolon here. We're at this point where we could attack and then kind of like get the tokens back. And if they don't block, they're going to be at this weird 4. So they're priced in the blocking here. We're just hoping the card in hand doesn't kill us. Land drop though. Searing Blaze does the 3 damage, takes us down. Now, this is the first time I'm running into this. I feel like it's just Dragon Claws and Anger the Gods here. I don't think there's anything else to be bringing in. There's Magus the Moon here, which could shut down Boros Charms or Helixes. I'm debating whether this is a good idea. I also take out a couple Rituals here because I'm thinking that we're going to try to play something on 2 instead with the Dragon Claw. If we were to play on 2 a Ritual and skip the Dragon Claw, I feel like we'd maybe be behind on playing it. We take a couple mulls here. We find ourselves with a Dragon Claw. We're across from a Goblin Guide, hoping that our Goblin Guide opponent will go ahead and get us some lands. We decide to Dragon Claw instead of killing Goblin Guide with the idea that maybe we can get a couple lands going and then we'll kill something. Double triggers here. We find ourselves with a Chalice. We decide Chalice on 1, maybe stop a couple burn pieces or bolt pieces. My opponent has just a Smash to Smithereens at this point. We're going to take the 5, go to 9, and we still cannot find a land. We're going to get our Anger. We have the ability to go ahead and abrade something here. But at this point, seeing a Chandra on top, we're not going to hit our 3rd land either. And really, you can basically see the writing on the wall at this point. We're about to take 3 with our creatures. They Helix us. We just get decimated. Our land drop was about 4 deep, which didn't play out very well there. Not ideal. So it was our first time running into Lurrus Burn. All right. Lurrus again. We have a turn 2 Chandra. Always a pleasure to have such a card. We have a fetch, Sacred Foundry, Rift Bolt, and so we are back here again. Lurrus Burn. We top deck Emrakul, of course. Luckily for this time, we have the Seasoned Pyromancer to put this away, and we have a Chandra coming up. Opponent hasn't put any creatures into play. I'm able to double Ritual, play the Chandra out. We could play Seasoned Pyromancer, and we decide to do this to get the engine going, trying to find basically Lukka at this point. Emrakul's back in the deck. We're getting burned out. Helix and Lava Spike. So here we're debating on a Seasoned Pyromancer, spinning the wheel. We get a Seasoned Pyromancer from the top of the library, spin the wheel, get to swing in for some damage. We get rid of the Chandra and the Seasoned Pyromancer in hand, extra tokens. Searing Blaze to a creature, and Helixes us. We're at 2. And from here, we have the ability to play a Magus to shut off Boros Charms and Helixes. We go up. We have Chandra on 7. We have an Abrade. We're looking really good here. We need them to not have a spell, but they find one, a Rift Bolt. We were hoping they would find a Helix or a Boros Charm. We get the next turn and we would kill them. So we're 1 turn off here. We can clearly beat this deck. We're just shy. We decided to make this a little bit different this time. We're going to play more of this control, Anger the Gods, and so on and so forth. So here, we're going to play all in. We're going to be very greedy. We're going to play a Chandra on turn 1, which seems really good because then I can play Planebound or Magus here. Opponent gets a Swift Spear, attacks, and goes after us. Now, what's interesting here is that we can start playing things out and protecting Chandra. We're almost at Chandra at 7. Maybe we can go ahead and shoot one of these. It depends on where they want to go with this. We're looking for maybe a Lukka up to the top, Planebound Accomplice, and Lukka would be playable with the 2 mana in play and the Chandra. We end up spinning the wheel on Chandra, get an Abrade, decide, let's go ahead and take care of one of the creatures. Why not? Chandra's sitting at 7. Opponent suspends a Rift Bolt. At this point, we think we could protect Chandra here. No problem not to. We go ahead and block, and this will force some sort of spell towards the Chandra. In this case, they go ahead and bolt. All right. So we're here. We decide to go ahead and clear the creature. We have a Planebound. We're just looking to Planebound and Lukka at this point. That's the idea of the deck. We're trying to avoid a Searing Blaze. We should keep that line. We should focus on that line here. We do a Void. We scry. We're at 12. My opponent Skull Cracks us. We're just going back and forth with the burn, as burn does. They decide not to play Lure, so I'm expecting some other spell here. We, for whatever reason, decide to play Simian Spirit Guide. We realistically shouldn't be doing that. Skull Cracks us, Land Drop, Searing Blaze, Helix. Lesson learned, we shouldn't have because we have Lukka right there. We have the Lukka literally as the next card, and we would have spun into Emrakul. We go and look for our Emrakul just to double check something as well there. We should have been more patient. We should have waited to play the Planebound. We got ahead of ourselves. It is what it is. Learn from the mistake. Searing Blaze, definitely a card from Lurrus Burn. Alright, last opponent here. We get to play a Rabblemaster on turn 2. Our opponent skipped their first turn here. Not entirely sure what exactly happened there. Turn 1, Mountain, Crash Through, no creature. I'm able to play a turn 2 Rabblemaster, turn 3 Chandra. Game's done. Shouldn't have happened like that. I think my opponent skipped through something. Anger Dragonclaw in, a lot of red cards. And we're going to pull out the Magus. They're mountains, only mountains, unlike Burn. We have a Bolt and light up the stage from our opponent. We've just got a few lands here. We've got an Anger. We have a Shrine of the Burning Rage and a Soulscar Mage here. Here we're debating what we want to do. We can play a Chandra, we can Abrade, we can Anger. We decide, why not play Chandra, remove the creature, see if they want to attack our Chandra, and then they also will have the Shrine to cover with the Abrade. We're hoping they're going to flood the board with something. We can Anger, maybe a couple Soulscar Mages or Swift Spears or something like that. We get a Soulscar Mage, we get a Swift Spear here. We have the Anger, and we top deck. We finally do it. We top deck Lukka, we play Planebound, we blast it in, we down tick Emrakul. And it shouldn't be any problem from here. They have enough permanents that I can Anger and Abrade, and our attack should kill everything. They only have 1 to 2 cards in hand. There's no way they're getting 17 damage through to us, even though Shrine is fairly high. We've got the W. We did what we needed to. Emrakul out. Lukka, Planebound Accomplice. We got the combo. There you go. So, what do we think about this? We're counting up the permanents here, but what do we think about this list? It's sweet. Could use maybe the Sarkon. It's got 3 drops. It's clearly all in, but it's a blast to play. I think with a little more fine tuning and a few other pieces where we would make sure we're not maybe exposing ourselves, also understanding a little more of the Lurrus matchups, it might have a shot. I could really see an Emrakul. There might be a spin on Sun and Moon with a little bit of white for Rest in Peace. You could do Nahiri's. You could maybe do some other pieces there as well. I'd probably keep it mono red for now, but something to consider. There you go. Lukka Red in Modern. There you have it. Lukka Red in Modern. A 2-3. Not the strongest finish. However, the 2 matches where it counted, that was worth it. Getting to spin into Emrakul just off of a combo between Planebound and Lukka seems to be really nice. And not to mention that actually just playing Lukka and getting that kind of upspell on a stalled out board might be worth something there. The -7 does have impact and could be direct damage. You never know where it could go. Once again, if you like this video, consider that thumbs up, subscribing, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care all, and have a good weekend.